Hey everyone, and welcome to the Synapsewerx engineering channel. Today we have another special product demo for you. One that we've been trying to record actually for a little while now. However, after talking to the Boomi AI dev team a few weeks ago, we decided to wait until the latest release was made available before we did this video. So today I'm excited to be talking all about the latest GA version of what is now called Boomi Agentstudio. It's had a few updates since we looked at the pre-release version, and our very own Ranjeet, who's our principal integration architect here at Synapsewerx, is going to take us through all of the key features. We'll be sharing with you also our independent opinions, highlighting what's missing in the current release, and talking to you about what we know of the features that are due to appear in future releases within Boomi's Agentstudio. So welcome, Carlos and Ranjeet. I can't wait to see what you've got to show us today. But before we start, the GA release has had a slight rebrand. So for starters, it's changed its name from Boomi AI Studio to Boomi Agentstudio. I understand why. I think a number of other vendors came out at the same time with a very similar or actually the same name. So it makes sense for Boomi to rebrand and differentiate themselves. So I guess the key question for me though is it just the name that's changed here, or are there a few changes to the product features too? Guys, what can you tell us?
So I have seen some changes post-GA. One is they did provide a new feature where you can export and import an agent. So what that means is if you build up an agent, you can export it in a PDF document and along with the YAML file, and you can import it back, which is quite a cool feature if you want to maintain a catalog of the agent, maybe in the Git repos and documentation perspective. So that's cool. That's something new which I've seen like post-GA.
So it was probably worthwhile holding off before doing today's demo, and certainly I think the rebranding looks cool. I think as part of the release at Boomi World 2025, or at least the announcement to the release a couple of weeks ago. So I think obviously they announced the new name and the rebranding. I think there was also mention of another 5 AI agents. Probably won't be covering those off today. Probably do a separate session, I think, on those. But we're promised, and again, I quote, at no extra cost. And if you recall from our previous video that we did with Boomi and Ram late last year, I think all those original native Boomi AI agents are all pretty much free too, and very cool to be using. But some of the new ones that were announced were the Integration Advisor Agent, the API Design Agent, the API Document Agent, Data Connector Agent, and a Resolve Agent. So I think we'll dive into those in a separate video. One of the more exciting announcements, and we've kind of, we've had this chat ourselves with the AI dev team, so we knew it was on the horizon, but I think it's now in the official Boomi release roadmap, and that's support for Model Context Protocol MCP. And again, you'll know from other videos that we've done recently that this is very topical, so we're very excited to see what's coming in that. I think it's fair to say it's not in the current GA release, but it is in the next version, we understand. So it'll be exciting to explore that a little bit further. There was probably not related to Agentstudio, but it was certainly of interest to us, which was the wider federated support for MuleSoft API gateways through the Boomi API Manager. So that's kind of interesting that they brought MuleSoft now into the fold, and I think through that control tower you'll be able to start to access and govern all of those APIs if you happen to have MuleSoft across your organization. And then another interesting one was just extending support of Amazon Q Business, which is going to allow Agentstudio a grounding in a company's entire kind of knowledge base for that kind of smarter, more accurate and context-aware responses. And again, I guess, Ranjeet, that's probably, I don't know whether that is on the roadmap or if it's in the current release, but it's probably something we're not going to cover off today.
Yeah, it's not in our demo today. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, Carlos, anything you wanna add?
I don't want to really steal Ranjeet's thunder. This is a very exciting moment, to be honest, Malcolm, because we have been at Synapsewerx. We are a part of the Global Partner Advisory Board with Boomi, and we have been talking to a lot of people, from Ed McCoskey to Batman and engineering and product management and product marketing managers and a lot of people. And in a way, I want to believe that we have helped influence a little bit this roadmap. I can see that some of our initial ideas went to the actual GA release. And even before the GA release, I can see some of the suggestions and indications of alignments with what we are seeing in the field ultimately made it to the final cut, which to me it is pretty exciting. And yeah, look, I'm looking forward to seeing this demo and over to you, Ranjeet.
Thanks, Carlos. And when we were talking about our feedbacks, I do remember one of the feedback that we have given is inter-agent communication, right? Like one agent within Boomi talking to another agent. And now I was switching to Madhav Q2 roadmap, right? Although it was not put into the roadmap, but he did call that out. And I remember he has taken a note when we were talking about it, that this is something that they also see as a key feature and should be included. Although it's not a part of roadmap, but then still that note has been taken and even called out as his future for forecast, right? What they want to have it as a part of agentic roadmap in future. So which was quite interesting.
Yeah, look, there was just on that, there was a couple of things that we called out, I think, when we gave feedback originally as part of pre-release. So model selection, so being able to select your own models, and I think it'll come out of the demo, but at the moment, Boomi makes those decisions in the background, depending upon the use case and the scenario as to which model it's using, and in the background, it's obviously leveraging the AWS platform and Bedrock, I believe. So that's kind of cool to see that is now on the roadmap, as I understand it, for a future release. MCP support, which we've kind of talked about already, and then there was agentic orchestration, because whilst Agent Step is in the current GA release and that does give you some sequencing capability, it's not true agent-to-agent orchestration. But again, that's definitely been picked up, and I think it's down and scheduled for one of the future releases. So it is cool to see that, and it's cool to think, Carlos, like you say, that we've influenced that, even if just a little bit.
Even on the version side too. So he did call about they're looking forward for versioning the agents in future. And that was also one of our input, right? It would be easy to govern if we can version it properly on agent basis and also on the toolset basis, right?
Exactly. And one of the advantages that we have at Synapsewerx is that we are technology agnostic. And being technology agnostic gives us that ability to understand a lot of technologies. And when we are talking to Boomi engineers who have been implementing Boomi for the last 5, 7, 10 years, the reality is that for many of them, we can see that they are not necessarily totally aware on how other iPaaS frameworks work. And for us, having that ability and experience across multiple technologies, we can identify gaps quite easily. And another example of this was in the current, still in the current way in which Agentstudio works. And when as Ranjeet is going to show us, when we are surfacing integrations, Boomi integrations from the back end, that we can invoke, but we cannot really gather any outputs from those integrations. And if you think about that concept from a Boomi point of view, it makes 100% sense, because a lot of what Boomi has been pitching in the last years is basically moving data from system to systems. But if you think about that concept from another technologies in outside, where they are heavily involved in exposing everything as APIs, then straight away that doesn't make sense. Like, yeah, I mean, I am moving data, but I also want to have access to that integration, and I want to get access to that data. And in many cases, with another iPaaS, an integration is equivalent to an API. That is not the case with Boomi, and that's okay. You know, it is just a different way of seeing things. And when we were sharing this feedback, I remember that, you know, the engineering team were asking, was like, but why would you want to see data from integrations? And they're like, well, this is how it works in other platforms. This is something that is going to be expected by some customers. And they liked the approach, they understood the approach, and again, that is something that we are going to see soon in the next releases.
Hey, look, good stuff. I think it's certainly really exciting. I think, you know, it's great to see Boomi thinking this way. I think it's very strategic. I think it's very considered. I think it's really very relevant, both for now and in that near future too. So, look, Ranjeet, I think we're going to hand over to you. Let's have a look through Agentstudio. What can you tell us about it?
So definitely they did have changed the name from Agent Garden to Agentstudio here. So you now see Agentstudio up here, Boomi AI to Agentstudio. So you see Agentstudio here now. So okay, so I'll start from the start itself, right? So this way we are quite familiar with it. It was like given to us long back. So there are two ways to go for an agent creation. So you can pretty much use the agent garden, right? Instruct it to create an agent on the automatically for you, but by just giving an input to it. But you can go and then create your agent by yourself, right? So there are multiple ways of creating an agent. You can import and export an agent. This feature was not provided pre-GA. This is something which I've seen new, right? So what you can do is, if you have built up an YAML file, which pretty much gives you the description of how the agent has to be defined, right? You can import that agent and then create it. Otherwise, you can just go and normally create an agent, and it will look like this. So for reference purpose, I've created a few agents. I'll walk you through those. But before getting into the agentic, creating an agent, right, we first need to understand how Boomi agentic flows works, right? So agent is something where when you create an agent, you have to define and set off a task that agent has to perform, right? But then task itself relies on the tools. When I say tools, is how you're going to interact with internal APIs built on the Boomi platform, how you're going to interact with DataHub, how you're going to interact with any external API. So for everything, you have to create a tool, and tool sits separately. So here you'll see a section where you can create a tool which are independent from the agent. So you take it as a reusable component that you're building for every interaction you do internally and externally. And when you get into the tool, you can connect so there's a multiple way of defining a tool. So you can have a prompt as a tool. So let's say you're using a predefined prompt multiple times for different agents. So what you can do is you can categorize it as a tool and put it here, and all the agent who need to access this particular prompt can tie to this particular tool set and use it. So it's increase the reusability across agents. The other thing is if you have an integration in place, so if you're using Boomi as an integration platform, right, and build up a lot of integration which are deployed, running on the runtime, right, you can pretty much leverages those integrations, triggers those integrations, get output of those integrations, right, by adding this tool and connecting to that particular integration. Another approach of connecting to anything which is hosted on the DataHub is using DataHub Query. So what you can do is you can create a tool set which basically leverage the data which is sitting on the DataHub and give the exposure of the data to your agents, right? So that's the third way of interacting with that, interacting using the DataHub toolset. The fourth is, if you want to leverage any data which is not sitting inside your Boomi ecosystem. Let's say you have to get the data. In my demo, I'll be talking about the HubSpot. So I'm getting some information out of the HubSpot. So in that particular reference, right, you can use an API call to HubSpot predefined expose API, and get the data out of using those APIs. So anything which is externalized or sitting in outside Boomi, if you want to leverage the data out of it, you can pretty much use an API call using this tool. So these are the four currently provided mechanism through which you can create your tool set in Boomi. And when you
one note very quickly that I
yeah.
found very interesting and pretty exciting is that the way in which Boomi are creating these tools to be used by agents. Well, we have to know that this was an idea that they started even before MCP existed, before MCP was a thing in the world. And if you think about what you just mentioned, Ranjeet, this is exactly the definition of MCP. Obviously, this is a proprietary protocol that Boomi is following in order to provide these skills as tools to agents. But what I found pretty interesting is how accurate Boomi is knowing what is important and how to leverage the maximum capability for agents in order to get access to all of these internal and third-party resources in a way that it is pretty much what is becoming standard today.
Yeah,
I think you're spot on, and I think just having that reuse and bringing that principle through again, I think, and being able to catalog all of these tools so that they're available. This is just obviously a small demo today, but imagine an organization 5 years from now is using Boomi Agentstudio, and it's going to have a whole host of tools. So being able to reuse them and see what other people have used as prompts and what's worked, it's going to be very valuable, I think.
Yeah, it is going to be. So, so getting more into details of tools, right? So what I've done is I've created a tool pretty much for every mode of interaction what Boomi provides. So a DataHub Query, integration, an API call, and prompt. So I'll just open, rather than creating a new, I'll just open it how it has been configured. So the DataHub Query, so when you create a tool set which basically leverages the data which is residing in the DataHub Query, you just go there. Provide the information, just provide a simple input and output parameter. So the one which I'm referencing here is more of, I'm trying to access the product catalog table and trying to get the information about a particular vendor by querying it with the vendor's name. So if you see, when I've configured it, I pretty much provide, so here is just basic generic information what this tool is going to do. But then here you're going to provide what would be the input parameter that you would be passing. So I've provided the input parameter as a vendor name. So you can click on it and you select what parameter you have to pass, type of the parameter, integer, string, boolean, normal query parameter, and then that's you define here. The next step is you have to connect to that particular table in the DataHub, right? So in order to do it, it will pop up all the repositories that you got in the DataHub, and then all the models which are existing in the DataHub. So for this particular one, I'm using engagement model which we got in DataHub, and then once you select the model, it will populate all the model fields that you got. So here you can go all, or you can pick and select the fields that you want to give access to the agent to leverage the information out of it. So you can put up a control here. So it's not like everything sitting in the DataHub isn't being exposed to the agent. You can put up a control up here. So here I've selected a limited number of fields that I want agent to access information out, and then provided that. And this being configured. If I want to put for any further restrictions, right, on the data being exposed to for the agentic use, I can put up a filter criteria here. I've not defined it here at this moment for the POC, but if you want to go further, you can pretty much define the filter criteria of what you want to expose to the agent or not, right? So as a part of this tool, so then it is pretty much a review, is pretty much a consolidation of whatever configuration I've done, and then you save it, and it's that simple. It's that simple, exposing the data from your DataHub. to the agent as a tool, right? And the good part is here, if you see the number. So right now my one agent is using it, but let's say there are multiple agents who are pretty much using this particular tool set. You'll see, okay, there are 5 agents using it. So for reference, this particular one is being exposed to 2 agents and they're using it. So you see the number. What is the dependency of this particular tool set? How many agents are relying on it? You do see it here.
I was just going to say that what you just described right now is extremely, extremely powerful. And it is one of those unique differentiations from Boomi with pretty much any other iPaaS in the world. Having ability to create golden records just by itself is very valuable for businesses. Because basically you are taking all the business rules in order to synchronize data among different systems, to deduplicate, to cleanse the data, to improve it and move it into gold level record, which is the highest, so that it is the most valuable. But then on top of that, not only you have direct access to it, but that data is first-class citizen as a tool to be consumed by your AI agents. That, to be honest, is one of the single most important capabilities that Boomi provides that are quite unique in the world, that will allow any organization, whether they are using DataHub or not, to have a way in which they can collect their most important information across different systems and use it in a very, very valuable way.
And then to take that capability and create a tool that's very specific in terms of individual data items within a data set, within DataHub. You're just by doing that, you're instantly restricting down what the AI agent is going to be looking at, what it has access to, and it makes it so much more specific, which really helps improve the response that you then get from that agent in terms of the data and its reasoning that it provides back.
And also, if you think about it, there are a few guardrails that must exist in every single agentic solution, and these are actually pretty hard to achieve. But with this approach, it is actually simple, because we can ring fence the right amount of data in order to get the high levels of accuracy at consuming that data. And these 3 guardrails that I'm talking about are hallucinations. Again, no need to overcomplicate things with RAG, no need to overcomplicate things with different methods, or bringing short-term, long-term memory and cognitive approaches. Like you can still do that, but you have access to the right data that is required in order to answer your inquiries, as Ranjeet is going to show us in a minute. The second guardrail is fact checking. Again, no need to reinvent the wheel. You are going to be able to be using factual information, because that is the data that is golden records that ultimately are being utilized in the backend. And the third one is context grounding. Again, no need to overcomplicate the things. You are ring fencing the data, so you are going to be able to operate within familiar parameters of familiar, correct, factual data that will ensure that you provide high levels of accuracy through your agentic workflows.
Hey, look, really very, very cool, and we've only just started. Sorry to interrupt you, Ranjeet, but yeah, it's cool. And like you say, Carlos, super powerful and unique. Not aware of any other iPaaS that does this.
Yeah, and see, so with the Boomi launching this Agent Studio, right? It becomes really interesting to know how this Agent Studio is going to work along the other product which Boomi offers, right? So somebody is already using the DataHub or integration, right? how it is going to sit along with the other services Boomi provide and work in collaboration with all the other services. And Boomi providing this DataHub Query integration connections, right? It works very well. So people who want to use it in Studio in the future, right, seeing this, that they already have an ecosystem where they have a data hub being implemented, they have an integration being implemented, they can leverage most out of it. So like my next thing was to showcase like how this is connecting the existing integration deployed on the Boomi runtime, right? So here, if you see the other tool that I've created is basically leveraging connection with the integration which is hosted on the Boomi. So it's very straightforward. So if you have a Boomi process being deployed available on the environment that you got, you just have to select the process, the particular process that you have deployed. So here, if you see, I've selected there's a process which is deployed in the Boomi, which basically gathers the lead informations, right? So you can make a call to HubSpot to get all the leads information, top 10 lead information from the HubSpot. So that's the process. That's in a nutshell. So here, how I've configured is basically I've made a call, just a generic input parameter. It's a get call, so no input parameter is just filtering it on the first top 10 lead information from there. So no input being passed, but then you just have to provide the environment. So it's a integration hackathon environment in a runtime, which is test data, which being conducted, and then the process which has been deployed there is a HubSpot. So it will give you the list of all the processes which is being deployed there. You just have to pick and select which one you want, right? And then if you're setting up any dynamic process property, which is like pretty much from Boomi integration perspective, all DPPs you can define in here, which would be passed through when you run this particular tool set, and it will review it again, basically in a nutshell what you have configured here, just to showcase all those things. So this is quite interesting feature. Then what you're trying to do is your agent is pretty much leveraging what you've already built up in Boomi integrations. You can trigger that. You can get the data. If there's an API being built up in Boomi, you can trigger that API, get the output of that API, use it for your agentic purpose. It's quite cool because it's just not a platform, AI platform of its own, but it's the AI platform which is interacting with other Boomi services and gathering the data out of it and making your agentic approach more powerful. Because you're trying to run something which is on top of it, something you have already built in your ecosystem. It's just that you have to use that all the information that you're already passing through the integrations and setting in the data hub, and then you're putting agent on top of it, right? So it's quite cool to see those things. The third one which I want to show is if your integrations, so if you want to interact with something which is outside your ecosystem. Let's say I want to make a call to HubSpot expose API. So they have provided for those sort of feature, they have provided an API call also, which you can build as a part of this tool set. So here in this case, I've not passed any input parameter, but then here if you see, I've make a call to the API hub CRM endpoint and pass all the information that it needed to get that particular output of that API. And so we will see this functioning once we go next level. I start demoing the agent, how this is retrieving the details from there. And the fourth one, which I will touch base, because if you would have remember, there were 4 options of creating a tool set. The fourth one is prompts. So let's say there is a use case, you have a generic prompt which is being used across multiple agent, right? So rather than putting as embedding into the agent, what you can do is you can create a tool set with the prompt and put it here, and all the agent can invoke it, right? So it's more from reusability perspective. So to showcase that, what I've done is created a prompt. So in my agent, I'm making a call to get a review for a particular product, right? So I've defined the prompt up here. So what it does is I provide the product details, and then it goes to the backend LLM model, right, which is running on a Bedrock again, right, and then get you the review for that particular product in this format, based on the prompt format, right? So
and again, this is very powerful because you can think about prompt in this context in the same way as MCP prompt works, which basically means that you can once you gather the right amount of data, once you ring fence the data through either an API call or through getting that data from DataHub or an integration. But once you already have the right amount of data, think about it, then you can put an LLM to work to what it does well, which is, okay, can you summarize it? Can you show me the sentiment? Can you give me a ranking based on this information? Can you give me, a lot of reasoning on that particular amount of data, which again is very powerful. And most likely, organizations are not going to have systems or APIs that do this type of work on top of data. That is something quite new that we have seen in recent years with LLMs, and they do that type of work very, very well. So again, you get the data, accurate data, factual data, and then you can process that data with prompting.
Yeah, and again, just to point out, you don't see this level of tooling and capability in other integration platforms. If you want to achieve this same level of interaction with your data across this broad range of tooling and capabilities, you'd have to do this externally to your integration platform. You'd have to do this using a different product. So seeing Boomi bring this within platform, I think super strategic. Especially, we've been playing with this stuff for 2 years now, hey Carlos, and we see the absolute strong connection between integration, data science, machine learning, Gen AI, right? In every situation, in every scenario, you need to connect. You need to create those connections. And to this point, we've been doing that manually. We've been writing thousands of lines of Python code using third-party products, all sorts of different products across all sorts of different platforms. And honestly, now, if you are an existing Boomi customer or a prospective one, you can get that capability, low code, no code, and instant access to all that data across not just the data within the Boomi platform and DataHub and the integrations there, but all that stuff that's outside as well. So it's I know it's just an initial release, but it's really exciting to see where this is going, and this is setting a good solid foundation for that.
It does, and Boomi has always been around simplicity to integrate data in the old days of 2023 and before, right? Which they did. They made a name of themselves of basically simplifying the way in which you integrate your systems. Now in agentic, they are taking the same principle, the same vision, the same approach of consolidating in one single platform the right capabilities and bells and whistles that you need in order to create your agentic workflows. And a lot of that has to do with the data, as I said first. And then on top of that, if you can massage that data and get the right value out of that data easily, without having to not just thinking about design it, but also deploy it and maintain it. Again, that is one of the most common reasons why a lot of the agentic development today that happens in Python doesn't really make it to production, because it is just hard to do it in a way that it is consistent and it is reliable in production in an ongoing basis. And again, Boomi makes it simple for organizations to achieve this level of capability.
And then see again, Boomi, right? And even if you go into the process, Boomi integration and flow, the way they define their product, right, like low code, no code, right? And they've if you see the agent also, they've kind of maintained the same sort of same sort of structure here. So even when it comes to configure the agent to connect to the Boomi internal component, or even if it is making an API call, it's quite configurable. You don't have to write like any code in there. It's like you just configure it and it works for you. So yeah, it's this is quite good. Let's start with designing an agent. So I just broadly covered the tool set, how to configure the tool set, but let's get to the basic, like how to design an agent. If you see, you can create a blank template, or you can import a YAML file, right, if you already have built one. Now, so you have a multiple way of it. You can go blank template. When you want to go blank template, it gives you both the options. You can create it by yourself like define each and every feature of the agent by yourself. But otherwise, you can do is you can provide a prompt to it, just letting Boomi know what would be the nature of the agent. It will create one for you. So yeah, you can do that. But if not, then what you can do is you can define the agent by yourself. Uh, so so here you can go and manually define the agent. So you provide the goal to the agent, and then you set up the personality of that particular agent, set up the voice and tone, like the way you want agent to respond. It's quite interesting to see some of those interesting options. Professional, definitely yes, but then friendly and playful. I've not tried playful so far now. Definitely should try one and then see. But then here you can provide the conversation starter, right? So when you deploy an agent and you give the chat box open and somebody doesn't know what to ask for, the conversation starter will work as an input for them, right? So you can define the conversation starter and what could be your any starting conversation with that agent, and then you can probably go more into detail when you're interacting with the agent. So
And sorry, Ranjeet, just to qualify then, so in terms of Boomi Agentstudio, when we're talking about an agent, it's a chatbot. Is that right?
yeah, it is. It is actually. At this moment, yes, it is. It is a chat box. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm not going to configure a new one. I have already built up one. But I was just going through it just to show how to create an agent. So I'll go through the one which I've already built up, which is get agent information. Okay. So one thing that I have noticed with Boomi, right? So when you want to go and change the agent, it automatically goes in disable mode. So it's not functioning at this moment. So it's not. So it was previously being deployed. The moment I have created, I moved into the edit mode. It became disabled, right? So when you're editing it goes disable even if it is deployed, or that happens automatically. But here, so let's go to this particular agent, right? So this agent is very basic in nature. I built it to provide your user interaction input chat box, right? For somebody who is interesting to get to know the information about the users which are stored in the DataHub based on the loyalty point, or to fetch the information about the advertisement based on the products, or to fetch the information about the product itself, and then to get the contact information which is stored in the HubSpot, right? So you can do multiple things through this particular agent, right? I've set up a personality tone of this agent, creative 80%, decisive 80%, so kept it agent bar quite high. I've set up the professional tone for this agent, and I've given a few conversation starters, right? That so that like whoever is interacting with the agent get to know, okay, how you can start interacting with the agent. So I've set up the tone for that purpose. So get the user detail on the basis of loyalty points, advertisement by ad names, product details. I've set up a tone. So this is setting up like agent persona. But then one good feature that I want to project, right, you can test your agent on the runtime. So without even deploying, you can test your agent. So if you're building up an agent, you define a persona to the agent, you've linked the task to the agent, and you want to test in parallel how this agent responds without even deploying, you can do it right here. So Boomi has provided that particular feature. So it's yeah. So and when I'm going to show you how to test this agent. You can pretty much debug everything when you're testing the agent. So once you set up the profile, the next step is basically setting up the task. So you remember we created multiple tools here. So now is the time to tie those tools with this particular agent. So it's like what I've done is whenever I need to get in product information, I need to call that product tool that I've set up, which goes to the DataHub and then get the product information from there. So if you see what it does, when the instruction is around getting the product information based on the vendor name, what it does is this is the instruction, and it goes and invokes this particular tool, which we had a look earlier. So it invokes this tool, and which is basically a hub type tool, which means it's a DataHub Query tool. It invokes that particular one, and it get you the information out of it. So this is how you tie the tool to your tasks. So here I've tied all the 4 type tools is basically making a execution to the prompt, making an execution to Boomi integration, making a DataHub query, and then the API call. So all of them has been tied here. So I'll show you for a reference. So let's say this getting in contact detail information from HubSpot. So here on the backend, we are using an API tool created. So if you go to toolset, it will show you, okay, get contact details from HubSpot, which is an API tool type, right? So it's basically internally invoking that particular tool set when you invoke this particular task. Now, so this is how you tie your tasks, your steps that you're defining for an agent to a tools. Yeah, Carlos.
To interrupt, Ranjit, but this is what Malcolm mentioned before, that imagine in 5 years an organization that has hundreds or thousands of tools, and they're also having hundreds or thousands of agents, and they are literally just assigning tools to agents, reusing those tools, applying them, removing them, providing them with capability to understand not just CRM but also ERP, and not only a particular module with an ERP, but I'm just going to also provide with the capability to understand supply chain, and I'm going to give them ability to understand this and ability to understand that, and a lot of that is going to be leveraging existing investment in building those integrations and APIs in the first place. Exactly the same story that with MCP, and Boomi is making it a reality in the enterprise game.
Yeah, if you're a Boomi customer today and you've been using that product for the last, well, even if you've only been using it for 12 months, but especially so if you've been using it for years, all of those integrations, all of that investment that you've made, that's all going to be available to interact with your agents right here, right now. And that's got a huge amount of value to it. And as we said a moment ago, and that's all low code, no code. Like, you're building these quickly. This isn't taking weeks and months. This is taking hours and days.
Yeah. And when we talk about the agent, right, we can't skip the topic of guardrails, right? So you really need to put up a control on top of it, what data you want the agent to get out of it, and what data people can access, right? So here, so you can go more into detail, but then here for just POC purpose or just for the showcase purpose, a set of guardrails stating that don't query anything related to the Google, right? So I'll showcase that when we are testing with the agent, that when I make a query with the Google, it just say stop me right there. You don't even go to the DataHub to get that information from there. So you can put a bright set of guardrail in here, and you can provide a topic. What do you want to be restricted and all, right? So it pretty much works for that purpose. You can go configure regex and regex also in this guardrail. So regex expression also in this guardrail to omit certain set of data to be exposed to the agent. So that's quite good. So if you see, you can do the word filter, you can do the regex pattern, right, put up here. So you can, it provide an elaborative way of putting up the guardrail on the information which agent is leveraging. Yeah, so which is. I
know it looks pretty simplistic, but I think when you combine all of those capabilities together, and certainly that prompt at the top up to 500 characters. If you can really tune that, I think, to be able to give you the guardrail that you want for this particular agent.
Yeah. And when you go to reviews, pretty much again giving you the elaborated view of what you have configured for this particular agent. So so that's all good. That's okay. But let's start playing with this agent, right? So before going there, I'll just walk you through the use case that we are going to try here. So if you see this, so for this particular use case, right, what we are doing is this agent is basically leveraging the data out of Boomi DataHub engagement table, and also interacting with the HubSpot. So the way it is working is we have in engagement table, we have the product catalog being maintained, right, which you can access. And based on the product catalog, let's say I want to filter out, I want to find the products published by Sony. Okay, or maybe create products of Sony, right? So I can query the agent. Hey, agent, can you get me all the product from Sony? And it's going to give you all the Sony product catalog details. And then you can take a product and then go, can you get me the price of this product from the HubSpot? and it will give you the price of that product from the spot. So the product pricing and everything is being stored in the HubSpot, and product information is being stored here in the DataHub. But we are pretty much using the interacting way of talking to an agent and getting all this information from an agent. And then when I'm trusting this agent not to allow to do any query for the Google related product, right? So that's pretty much testing the guardrail feature of Boomi AI. So let's start playing with it. So here it is. So if you see, we have the data being setting into the engagement table, where you have the product information, product name, right, and the vendor name, right, and then created categories and everything in here, and that's what this agent would be leveraging.
And just before you move to Ranjeet, again, it is not something that we want to demonstrate today, because this is all about the Agent Studio. But I just want to again reiterate that just to get to that golden record, there is so much capability within Boomi that allows you to synchronize data from multiple systems, allows you to deduplicate the data, allows you to cleanse the data, allows you to find gaps and find what is the best possible ways to fill that data. If none of these business rules work from an automated way, then it allows you to quarantine the data so that you can have a data steward to go into these cases and fix the data. And all of this capability is to get to this point that we can get that golden record layer or level, which allows you to then consume that data in anger. It's just weaponizing your data for any type of AI or non-AI related matter.
And all of that from a business context equates to one thing: accuracy, right? And when we're dealing with accurate data within our organization, we can do so much more with that. We're going to get better, more reliable results from our LLMs. We're going to get better interactions with our customers. So, so I think, again, this feature and having this built within your integration layer is just, I don't know, it's just phenomenal, really.
Yeah. So let's play with this agent, right? So the DataHub, I've shown you the data already sitting there. So we were talking about the product case. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask the agent, hey, can you get me the details of all the product by vendor Sony? And it's going to give me whatever is there. So get me Sony. Yeah. So here, if you see, it's giving me. So there were two products which were there inside in our golden record table, right? Like one was Sony Bravia TV, and other was ZV-E10-2, which is a camera. But what I want to show you, apart from the output that we get, is the steps. So so again, it's a test agent, right? So what it is it's pretty much giving you the thinking process of an agent, right? So when I provide, this is a simple command. Get me the product by Sony, what it did, right, internally. So it's basically translate. So this is it's a thinking process. It's translate into this particular instructions. Based on the instruction that it translates into, it find out, okay, there is a task that has been configured in the agent, which pretty much relates to the instruction that has been provided, which gets the product information. So it made a call to that particular task. From my instruction itself, it took out the vendor name, which was Sony, provided it in the parameter because there was a parameter. So the tool was expecting a parameter to be passed. So it took out the vendor name, which was Sony, invoked that particular tool, and get a response back, right? So if you see, it automatically, not automatically, but it figured it out, like what tool set and what task to invoke. And then based on that, it called that particular tool set product detail, which is basically making a call to the DataHub query, which is invoking a DataHub query to interact with the DataHub and giving a response back, right? So, okay, there was no approval being set for that one. So it just extract the data out of the product information table and give you a response back. So now I got these two product information. But what I next want to do is to get the pricing of this particular product from the HubSpot. So what I'm going to do is, okay.
Hey, Ranjeet, just whilst you're showing us that that trace. I understand how powerful and useful that is from a developer and a configuration perspective, for sure. It's going to allow you to debug your configuration and your prompt and your guardrails and all that good stuff. What level of audit logging is there at the moment? Do we get the same level in an actual operational mode that we can refer back to?
Yeah, so I'll deploy this one and then show it what level of detail we get. So it does maintain the history of all the conversation that you have done, right? But it does not give you this level of like step-by-step thinking process execution of auditing.
Yeah.
It just give you when you're testing an agent, but not when you're deploying the agent and actually chatting with the chat box. It gives you a history of the interaction that you have done with the chat box, but not the step-by-step thinking process of the chat box. Yeah.
I was going to say, and then so it's not like a debugging mode then that you can activate. So imagine a scenario that your agent is degraded, you've been getting some unusual results, maybe some hallucination, and from a support perspective, you want to go debug and find out, well, what's happening. The only way to do that is to come back in here, which turns the agent off effectively from live, and you'd need to go through this process. There's no audit log that for each and every live transaction, or no capability of turning on the audit log to be able to log and review the log files. So, for example, if someone said, "Hey, I did this query yesterday, and this is the unusual response that I got," there's no way from a support point of view at the moment that you could go and have a look at that individual query that the agent made, and to follow this level of thinking.
Yeah, no, at this moment, no. When you deployed, it's not there. But Malk, there is something which we still need to explore, which is agent control tower. What level of feature has been provided up there? But yeah, by just
Really?
looking to
Look, thank you for raising that. I know that we still don't have access to agent control tower, so we can't qualify what level of audit logging perhaps control is available. Maybe it's there.
Yeah, so that's the reason I don't want to make a comment on that, because we have not explored this agent control tower. But so for now, what we have access, we can't do that at this moment. But yeah, here...
But we know it's got the capability, for sure.
Yeah, it got the capability. In test agent, definitely it's got some capability. And now, the one more interesting thing that you see is, right, it pretty much gives you elaborated view of what exactly it has done. So right now, there was no guardrail which was restricting the filtered output, so it is not showing anything. So no guardrail has been invoked. But if I'm going to make a query about, okay, give me the Google data, I'll do that probably after making a HubSpot execution. So again, getting back to the use case, right? So now I got two product information. So what I'm going to do is pick one product and ask to get the price from the HubSpot. So get me the price from HubSpot for this product, which was provided as an output. Now it's making a call. Let's see how it does. And then just letting you know, like what it is doing in the backend is executing a tool which is making a API call to the HubSpot API to get a product information from there. So I'll show that. So here, so I've recorded I've maintained the detail of this particular product here, put up a unit price of $1,800 for this particular SKU. And what it's doing is basically making a call to the HubSpot to get that particular information, and that's what it did. So it went to the HubSpot, took this for this particular product and found the price to be $1,800 and got you the same back in the response. So if you see the step, it's pretty much going to call out the same. It made a call to get product information from HubSpot. It invoked the particular tool which was making an API call to HubSpot to fetch this information out of HubSpot and got back the same information here.
Yeah. And I think some people watching might say, yeah, but hey, you've always been able to do that. You just do that with a SQL call in a database, and you don't need to put a Gen AI LLM there. And I think yes, technically you don't need to do that, and you could make a SQL call if you understand SQL. But if you don't understand SQL, and if you want an interaction experience with something that's using natural language, then absolutely this is a really valid use case.
Yeah, this is a very interesting topic that I find myself constantly discussing with people. I would say at least a couple of times per week in recent weeks. And they are not wrong. You know, when someone says like, yeah, but you could have done an API or you could have done an SQL and get that information. That's what we have done in the last 20 years or more. And that is right. The thing that I always try to capture here is that we are leaving an open-ended ability for a human to interact with the data. So yes, you can run an SQL, and yes, you can filter out, and you can do whatever your UI allows you to do, whatever was designed by whoever designed the UI, you know. And for end user, for business persona, to be able to go beyond that point, then it is impossible. You know, they need to ask for a change request. They need to ask for a capability, and then projects need to be started. Yeah. What we are talking about with generative AI is having that open-ended capability to allow humans to interrogate their own data in their own natural way of talking, you know, without having to worry about UIs, without having to worry about buttons or drop-down menus. Just ask the question. Something internally is going to interpret and understand your intent, and is going to give you your answer back. That is something quite novel that has never been seen in the history of IT ever. That is what we are talking about here.
That's a perfect response, Carlos. I know we have some customers who are frustrated with their internal mechanism. So they have an existing integration and they actually just want 2 extra data items. To get 2 extra data items from a table that they're already querying, this is the process they have to go through. First of all, they have to define a technical specification document. They've got to go to a change control board. They've got to get funding. They need a business case. They've got to request the change of their integration center of excellence. The integration center of excellence sends them a bill, says, yes, we can do that. It's going to cost you $60,000. We can schedule it for 3 months from now. And they want that data right here, right now. You know, with this capability, with this open-ended approach, they could do that pretty quickly, pretty easily, and no process to go through, no extra cost.
And then you can see why AI is going to fundamentally wipe out those organizations that are not taking this seriously right now. Because, you know, all of those steps, all of that cost, all of that complexity, and especially all of that time will not have to be required by those organizations that are investing today in scaling themselves and their data with AI layers that will allow them to have that open-ended capability. And that is going to make a complete differentiation in cost, in customer satisfaction, customer service, and an ability to reinvent new products and services constantly, aligned to those crazy customer expectations, in a way that other companies will simply not be able to do, because they have to go through all of that process and all of that cost and all of that time.
Yeah.
No, that's good. And if you will be able to correlate, Carlos, right? If you would have remembered like a decade before, or maybe 5 years back, when you go to a customer service desk and they need to take your name, find your information, they will have 10 windows open for different applications. So, get this information from this particular window, this application, that will go to the another application, put that ID there, get more information, right? But what we are doing is like very productifying it as an AI agent and giving to them. You ask whatever you need to ask about the product particular from this AI, and this AI knows where to get that data for you, right? So simplifying the whole world, right? Whole ecosystem for you. Yeah. So so we were trying to get this price information for a particular product, but now what I next want to do before actually going and making a purchase, right? I want to understand, okay, the feedback of for this particular product, right? And you remember we created a prompt, right, to get that reviews, right, for the product. So we pass the product ID information and they get you the review. So what I want to do is basically now invoke that prompt tool from here to get a review for this product. So give me the review. Give me the yeah. So now yeah. So now if you see, right, it has provided me the review, and for the review, it used the prompt that I have kept in the tool set, right? So how we get to do, we see it here. So what it did is it's provided the thinking, how it figured out my command, right? So it figured out, okay, there's a tool available and the task configured to get a review. This is a tool that need to be invoked, and that invoke the tool. In the tool, I've provided the prompt, predefined prompt, to structure the review. So it just structured the review based on my prompt commands and gave me this consolidated review, which is good. Like, yeah, good. Yeah. So, so I think we are done from testing perspective, right? What we can do is deploy this agent and then see how it functions after deployment. So now you see that it was pretty quick. It is deployed. What I can do is now start conversation. So as I said, right, we have provided the predefined instruction set. So that once the chat box is open, user know what I can ask and how to use this one. So I'll use a different use case this time. So here we have a loyalty point being stored into our DataHub user table, where user information and their respective loyalty point has been stored in there. So we get that information, we access that information from the DataHub through this agent, and then for a particular customer, what we can do is their contact details. I know that customer is having 80-90 loyalty points, so I want to contact them, so I need to get that contact information for that customer, which is being stored in the HubSpot. So the next interaction we'll do for this particular customer, can you get me his contact detail from HubSpot? And it's going to get me done. Yeah. So let's jump back to the agent. Where is it gone? Sorry. Here. So, okay. So I'm making a query call to the agent. I use the predefined instruction. So it's, yeah.
What I also find quite interesting, Ranjit, is that in the past, at Synapsewerx, when we have had to do the same thing, and we are ready after doing a lot of Python development, and we are ready to deploy an agent, then we have to think about so many things. Assuming this is for an enterprise organization, we have to think, okay, how are we going to protect the LLM? Can that LLM be operating outside the firewall's premises? How are we going to? What is the type of compute that we are going to use? Is it going to be CPU based? Is it going to be GPU based? What about the AI inference? What about the shape? What about this? What about all the security? And there is so much going on that has to happen. That all of that to me was it just felt magical when you just click a button and say deploy. And then it is exactly the same way that Boomi has get customers familiar with an integration approach, which is just create the integration and just click deploy, and it will run, and it will be running on a secure tenancy that you are already familiar with, and all of these benefits that again is part of a single platform are just implicit, right? And that is also quite cool.
Yeah, no, that's cool. So if you see this, right, we just made a simple query, and what it did is like went back to the user table, had a study this user table, and give you a response, generic response back stating that, hey, we have like 24 users which belongs to the platinum layer, 35 from gold, 42 from silver, these many from bronze, right? So, and then give you that response back. But if you want to go more particular, yes, we can go more in particular, asking it, okay, get me user name, user, meanwhile it's thinking, I want to show you very cool feature of this, right? So because we are talking to this particular agent, every interaction that we have done with this agent is being cached, right? So it will give you a history of any interaction that you have done with that particular agent on the data. So if you see, like I've started playing with this agent back in April, it has recorded all the interactions since then for this particular agent.
So out of curiosity, the only way to interact with the Boomi AI agent is via the agent garden at the moment. So there's no API wrapper that we could then use to deploy in a wider enterprise workflow.
At this moment, there's nothing. Yeah. So if you see, what it did is went back to the DataHub, made a query, got me the detail of on the basis of the loyalty points. For all the people who got 90 and above loyalty point, got me the details here. So what I can do is now, okay, just to as a part of our use case, right? I'm just going to fetch few users and get their contact detail. Get me.
And whilst Ranjeet's just putting that in, just to let everybody know that these may look like real names, but we had AI create a whole massive data set for us that we have in our back-end DataHub. So, yeah, none of this is actually real. And if any of the names look familiar, it's 100% coincidence.
So if you see, what it did is it got Ellen Miller's detail from the HubSpot. So I'll show you here. In the HubSpot contacts, right, I've maintained this user information. So the information that's showing up there in the response, prompt response, is being taken up from here. So it's making a call to the HubSpot, getting this in, fetching this information here from here, and then showing it here.
And that, I think that also paints a more common picture. You know, I'm okay. I'm a big fan of certain vendors, certain application vendors who want to also bring agentic into their own platforms, and they see the world or the universe as if they were in the middle, you know, they were in the center of the universe, and everything has to be coming from them, and they need to pull data so that they can surface all of that from themselves. The reality is that the majority of organizations have a lot of systems. They have a lot of data spread out everywhere. And having an iPaaS tool that also is now your agentic platform that allows you to pull the right data into the right ecosystem so that you can interrogate that data. And regardless of which one, whatever flavor of CRM or ERP you are using, and it allows you to surface the value of your data, then I think it is also pretty valuable and more aligned with reality.
Yeah, I would still like to see the agents that are created here accessible externally, though.
Yeah.
Or as a very minimum, you know, built into something like Boomi Flow, so that you can interact with it other than through just Agent Garden.
Sure.
Because from a real world perspective, if you're, you know, imagine if you're in a call center or, you know, interacting with customers, you'll want to do that most likely through an interface other than Agent Garden.
There's another thing that I want to show, so that is okay. But this is something which was launched post GA, was you can export the agent, right? So here we have built this get information agent, and what we can do is we can export and import the agent. And when you export an agent, it basically gives you the YAML definition of that particular agent, and then it also creates the documentation for an agent. So yeah, so let me, I've already done one, but let me get a fresh one so we can go through it. So if you see this, it's going to, yeah, so YAML definition. So yeah, So see, it's quite elevated. It's created the whole YAML definition about the agent profile, like defined its persona. So I downloaded and it created like the whole persona definition of an agent in a YAML format. So you see this, the personality trait that we define in the for the agent, right, in the UI, and what task we have created. It provides the detail of that and what tool it is interacting with, right? So it's created like the whole information in the YAML format. And let's say you want to import, so you can pretty much export and import, right? So I can still play over the agent on my profile, but then let's say you are an enterprise customer and you want to load this on your, so I can export in a YAML format and give it to you. You can import the agent on your under your profile and works well. So yeah, and then you can also maintain the agent definition right outside Boomi. So let's say you're working in an ecosystem, version control, and let's say you're working with where you're managing multiple agents, right? Few are built in the Boomi, few you're building it in let's say Azure or any other things, right? You can create like a master catalog of agents, right, for the definition purpose, which is quite cool. Now getting back to the documentation part of it, let me show my screen.
Yeah, I can see that in the near future, agents will be the next microservice that need to be taken seriously from a life cycle point of view, where versioning is an important aspect of it.
Yeah. So so now you see earlier we saw the YAML definition, but then parallel to it, it has also created the PDF extract about the agent documentation. So it pretty much talks about what was the goal of the agent, the personality of the agent, right? What we configured on the screen, right? Pretty much has generated a document for that, but it's not there. It's not only that level. It pretty much defines what you have implemented at the agent from guardrail perspective, what are the tool and tasks that you have created, what tool it is invoking, everything. So it's quite detailed. If you see, it's like it even goes to the on the detail of like, okay, if you are invoking the DataHub tool, what fields you are actually accessing from the tool.
I like it.
So yeah,
I hadn't seen this. This is pretty good.
It's just quite interesting, right? Then you think of it as you just you directly start working on the creation of the agent, and documentation is no more of like a point of concern for you. You just extract it from there, and so it's.
Yeah, well, because there will be plenty of agents out there, in the near future. We're going to be seeing hundreds and thousands of agents, so those need to be properly documented.
Yeah,
because they need to be maintained.
Yeah, maintained and supported, and we all know just with integration over the last kind of 30 years that when you, like most developers don't like doing documentation, so anything that helps you do that documentation is always a plus. I think, from a management perspective though, having access to that documentation, being able to drop it into your wiki, being able to provide it to your support teams or partners, I think this is where it adds real value. So it's really, really good to see that that's there.
Yeah, it was a very good demo. Thank you, Ranjeet, for taking us through it.
Thank you, Carlos.
Quick question. Just thinking about what we've seen then. So we've seen Agent Garden. We've had a look at Agent Designer. We've looked at agent tools and how to build agents themselves. We touched on guardrails and that capability, which was great to see. I guess what we haven't had a look at, so maybe, and I know we're running out of time, so maybe we could do a separate session on this at some point, but agent integration step is something I'm keen to understand and see. I know that was not in pre-release version, but it is now in the general release, so maybe we could do a separate demo on that.
Yeah, and also let's do a separate demo, a separate session to go through, sensible mechanisms to maintain the high levels of accuracy for models and agents. My view on that is that they are not any different to any microservice. In the same way how microservices need to be constantly functionally tested and non-functionally tested to ensure that they are obviously within the boundaries of performance and and SLAs and KPIs, but also that they are returning the right thing. Agents being non-deterministic, we also need to they need to be tested as well. And Boomi has also released another great capability that we need to bring into another episode, that is Control Tower.
Yeah. Thank you. That was on my lips too. So I think that's a key feature. We've requested access a couple of times. I know the team are busy, so with a bit of luck, we'll get that access within the next few days. And once we've had a play and we understand those features and capabilities, we'll be calling on your services again, Ranjeet, to take us through that. So,
yeah, sure. Welcome.
Look, Ranjeet, Carlos, thank you so much for today. Ranjeet, thank you very much for giving us that comprehensive deep dive into Boomi's new Agent Studio. It's clear to me now that Boomi has this very focused strategy to be the leading AI and integration platform in the marketplace. The thought leadership, I think, shown by Steve Lucas, Ed Makowski, Matt McClarty, and actually the entire development team is absolutely outstanding. It's great to see this vision finally coming together in this latest release, Agent Studio. And when it's combined with all that other strategic and innovative activities that we're seeing from the Boomi stable in general, I think it's really reassuring to know that they are driven by what customers need today and what they're going to need in the very, very near future. Now, this has been a long one today. I hope that everybody that's still watching today's demo has got something value out of the chat. If you want to know more about Carlos or Ranjeet or the solutions that we've demonstrated today, or you just want to learn more about integration and AI, then please check out the description below where you'll find a whole bunch of links that you can use. And look, before we finish the session, as usual, I'd like to thank you for spending this time with us today. If you have liked what you have seen and heard, then please do us all a favor and hit the like and subscribe buttons below. It really does help us, and it certainly helps with those wonderful YouTube algorithms. If you've got any questions for anyone in the chat today, again, just drop your questions and views in the comments below. Thanks again, and until next time, keep having fun with meaningful technology.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Ranjeet. Thanks, Malcolm.